The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, a deep dive into T.S. Eliot's masterpiece poem. Welcome to the Poetry of J.P. I'm your host, J.P. Today we're deep diving into one of the most iconic poems of the 20th century. It's also one of the most enigmatic. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. This poem, first published in 1915, is often considered one of the most seminal works of modernist poetry. Eliot, an American expatriate living in England, was only 26 years old when the Love Song of Alfred J. Prufrock was published, and it promptly marked him as a major new voice in literature. But what is it about this poem that has captivated readers for more than a century? So what makes the poem such a compelling exploration of the modern condition? Analyzing the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, a deep dive into T.S. Eliot's modernist masterpiece. In today's episode, we're going to explore these questions in two parts. First, we listen to the entire poem. Then we'll dissect its themes, imagery, and the life of its author. We'll also dive into some lesser-known facts about T.S. Eliot and the creation of this work. We will weave in a comparative analysis with other contemporary works. Finally, we will explore the historical and bibliographical context that shaped this masterpiece. Analysis of a Poem Poetry Podcast. The opening epigraph and its significance. Before we start, I'd like to point out something important. The poem opens with an epigraph in Italian. It is taken from Dante Alighieri's Inferno. This choice of epigraph is not arbitrary. It is deeply significant. It sets the tone for the introspective journey we're about to embark on. These lines from Dante's Inferno translate to, "If I believed that my reply were made to one who could ever return to the world, this flame would stand still without moving further. But since never from this abyss has anyone ever returned alive, if what I hear is true, I answer you without fear of infamy." In this passage, the speaker Guido da Montefeltro is trapped in hell. He is confessing his sins under the belief that no one will ever hear them outside of hell. This mirrors Prufrock's own hesitations and fears. He is confessing his deepest thoughts in a world where he feels his words go unheard and unjudged. This connection between the epigraph and Prufrock's inner turmoil gives us a glimpse into the themes of isolation. It also reveals the fear and struggle for meaning that permeate the poem. First, before I read the poem, I'm going to take the time to note that I do not speak Italian. I am sure that many of you do not either. Because of this, I have chosen to show the poem with its English translation. Here is the poem in full. So sit back, relax, and let's journey together into the world of J. Alfred Prufrock. This is the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot, read by J.P. Vandersarl. If but I thought my response were made to one whom perhaps returning to the world, this tongue of flame would cease to flicker. But since, up from these depths, no one has yet returned alive, if what I hear is true, I answer without fear of being shamed. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go, through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels, and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent, to lead you to an overwhelming question. Oh, do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongues into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. And indeed there will be time to wonder, do I dare, and do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. They will say, how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions which a minute will reverse. For I have known them all already, known them all, have known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I have measured my life with coffee spoons. I know the voices dying with a dying fall beneath the music from a further room. So how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already, known them all, the eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the buttons of my days and ways, and how should I presume? And I have known the arms already, known them all, arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight drowned with light brown hair. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table or wrap about a shawl, and should I then presume, and how should I begin? Shall I say, I have gone at dusk through narrow streets, and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows? I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floor of silent seas. And the afternoon, the evening, sleeps so peacefully, smoothed by long fingers, asleep, tired, or it malingers, stretched on the floor here beside you and me. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head, grown slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have lived to see the eternal coatman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. And would it have been worth it, after all, after the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me, would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it toward some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all, and I shall tell you all, if one, settling a pillow by her head, should say, that is not what I meant at all, that is not it at all, and would it have been worth it, after all, would it have been worthwhile, after the sunsets and the dooryards and the sprinkled streets, after the novels, after the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor, and this, and so much more. It is impossible to say just what I mean, but as if a magic lantern threw the nerves and patterns on a screen, would it have been worthwhile, one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl, and turning towards the window should say, "That is not it at all. That is not what I meant at all. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. Am an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt an easy tool. Differential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse, at times indeed almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back, when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by sea girls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown. Prufrock, a symbol of the modern man. There you have it, the full poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. It's a poem that pulls you in with its vivid imagery. It then leaves you reflecting on its profound yet elusive meaning. So who is J. Alfred Prufrock? He's often seen as a symbol of the modern man, introspective, insecure, and deeply aware of the passage of time. T.S. Eliot introduces us to Prufrock in a world that feels both familiar and surreal. It is a place where the evening sky is spread out like a patient etherized upon a table. Right from the start, we're in a landscape that's disjointed, anesthetized, and unsettling. Prufrock invites us to go then, you and I. As the poem progresses, we see that it's not a journey through a physical space. It is through his mind, through the muttering retreats of his thoughts. The cityscape that Eliot paints is one of half-deserted streets and one-night cheap hotels, a reflection of Prufrock's inner turmoil. It's a world that mirrors his fragmented state of mind. But what exactly is Prufrock struggling with? At its core, this poem is about indecision. It's about the paralysis that comes when we are unable to act. We are unable to answer the overwhelming question that Prufrock himself cannot even bring to the surface. He's haunted by his own inadequacies. He fears judgment. He realizes that time is slipping away from him. The concept of time in Prufrock's world. Time is a constant presence in Prufrock's thoughts. He tells us, there will be time, but as he repeats this, it becomes clear that time is not his ally. He is a man caught between the fear of action and the inevitability of aging and death. He measures his life with coffee spoons. This is a poignant image of the mundane passage of time. Every moment is counted, but none are truly lived. The refrain, "In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo," serves as a reminder. It reminds us of the superficial social world that Prufrock feels alienated from. These women, discussing art in a detached manner, symbolize the disconnect between Prufrock's inner life and the world around him. He is actually aware of how others perceive him, worrying about his thinning hair and his awkward appearance. It's this preoccupation with self-image that leads him to ask, do I dare disturb the universe? But the question remains unanswered, buried under layers of self-doubt. Structural and stylistic innovations in the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Let's take a moment to delve into the structure of the poem. T.S. Eliot's use of free verse combined with a fragmented narrative style reflect the chaos and uncertainty of Prufrock's thoughts. Unlike traditional poetry that adheres to strict rhyming schemes and meter, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock flows in a way that mirrors the ebb and flow of consciousness. This stream of consciousness technique allows us to experience Prufrock's indecision and anxiety firsthand. The imagery in the poem is rich and often disconcerting. Take, for example, the yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes. This fog, often interpreted as representing the smog of the modern city, also reflects Prufrock's murky, unclear thoughts. It moves slowly, almost lethargically, just as Prufrock moves through his life, hesitant, uncertain, and without clear direction. The influence of the Modernist movement. To understand Eliot's stylistic choices, it's crucial to consider the broader Modernist movement of which he was a part. Modernism, as a literary movement, sought to break away from traditional forms. It aimed to express the fragmented, often disorientating experience of modern life. Eliot's work reflects this wish to capture the complexities of the modern world. His contemporaries like Ezra Pound and James Joyce shared this goal to capture these uncertainties. In The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Eliot's use of stream of consciousness, fragmented narrative, and illusion-rich imagery reflects the influence of modernism. The poem does not follow a linear narrative. Instead, it mirrors the disjointed thoughts and feelings of its protagonist, Prufrock. This technique allows readers to experience the character's inner turmoil in a way that feels immediate and authentic. Prufrock's crisis of identity. Prufrock's crisis culminates in his vision of the eternal footman, holding his coat and snickering. Here, death is personified as a mocking figure, reminding Prufrock of his mortality. And in the face of this, what does he do? He admits, "I was afraid." This fear is what ultimately defines Prufrock. A fear of rejection, of miscommunication, of living a life unfulfilled. But perhaps the most heartbreaking part of the poem comes at the end. Prufrock imagines himself as not Prince Hamlet. He is not even a hero in his own story. Instead, he sees himself as merely an attendant lord, a secondary character in the lives of others. He has resigned himself to this fate. He accepts that he is no prophet. He acknowledges that his moment of greatness has flickered away. Comparative analysis with contemporary works. When we compare the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock with other works of the same period, like James Joyce's Ulysses or Virginia Woolf's Miss Dalloway, we see a shared focus on the inner life of characters. All these works use stream of consciousness to convey the fragmented nature of thought and experience. Nevertheless, while Joyce's characters often find a way to navigate their inner turmoil, Prufrock remains paralyzed by his fears. This difference highlights the unique way in which Eliot portrays the modern condition. This is a condition marked by alienation, indecision, and a deep sense of inadequacy. Eliot's work also shares a thematic kinship with the poetry of Ezra Pound. This is particularly clear in its use of illusion and fragmented imagery. Nevertheless, Pound's poetry exudes a confident, even aggressive modernism. In contrast, Eliot's tone in Prufrock is one of hesitation and self-doubt. This contrast further emphasizes Prufrock's role as a symbol of the modern individual. He struggles to find meaning and agency in a disjointed world. Historical and bibliographical context of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. To fully appreciate the depth of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, It's essential to consider the historical and bibliographical context in which Eliot wrote the poem. Eliot composed this poem during a time of significant personal and societal upheaval. The early 20th century was marked by rapid industrialization. It also saw the horrors of World War I. There was a growing sense of disillusionment with traditional values and institutions. Eliot himself was navigating a complex personal landscape. Born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1888, he moved to England in 1914, just as the Great War was beginning. This move marked a significant transition in his life, both geographically and intellectually. He experienced displacement and alienation as an expatriate. This likely informed his portrayal of Prufrock as a man adrift in a world that feels both familiar and strange. Eliot's relationship with his contemporaries. Eliot's relationship with other modernist writers, particularly Ezra Pound, played a crucial role in shaping his work. Pound, who was instrumental in getting Prufrock published, encouraged Eliot to push the boundaries of poetic form and content. This mentorship helped Eliot develop the innovative techniques that define the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, like its use of fragmented narrative and allusion. Moreover, Eliot's work was deeply influenced by the intellectual climate of the time. It was particularly shaped by the philosophy of Henry Bergson and the works of the French symbolists. Bergson's ideas about time and consciousness are clear in the way Eliot constructs Prufrock's world. The symbolist's emphasis on suggestion and ambiguity is also obvious. It is a world where time is fluid and meaning is elusive. The enduring legacy of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. As we think on the poem's conclusion, it's clear Prufrock imagines himself lingering in the chambers of the sea until human voices wake us and we drown. The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock remains a powerful exploration of the modern condition. Prufrock's fears continue to resonate with readers. His paralysis often continues to resonate. Additionally, his ultimate resignation to a life unfulfilled resonates more than a century after the poem's publication. For writers and poets, Eliot's use of imagery is remarkable. His symbolism provides depth. The stream of consciousness in this poem offers a master class in how to explore complex emotions. The fragmented structure, the shifting thoughts, and the vivid imagery all work together. They create a portrait of a man at odds with himself and the world around him. Revisiting the love song of J. Alfred and Prufrock's world. I encourage you to revisit the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, perhaps with new eyes. Think about how these elements come together to create something both haunting and beautiful. The poem's richness lies in its ability to encapsulate the anxieties of the modern individual. This makes it as relevant today as it was in Eliot's time. By examining Prufrock's fears, doubts, and inactions, we gain insight into his character. Moreover, we gain insight into the broader human experience. If you're a writer, consider how you could use similar techniques in your own work, how you can capture the uncertainties and struggles of your characters, just as Eliot has done with Prufrock. The blending of structure, language, and imagery in this poem serves as a powerful tool. It conveys the complexities of the human psyche. Let's circle back to the epigraph that opened the poem. The notion of confession without consequences frames Prufrock's narrative. He speaks not to be understood. Perhaps he just wants to be heard. He knows that the deepest parts of his soul will remain obscured. These parts will be protected in the abyss of his own mind. This concept of selective confession mirrors the reader's journey through the poem. We are invited to witness Prufrock's thoughts. Still, we are also reminded of the limitations and truly understanding another's inner world. The role of modernism in Prufrock's identity. As we've discussed, Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock is a cornerstone of modernist literature. Its influence can be seen across various forms of art and writing in the 20th century. Modernism sought to break away from traditional narrative structures and delve into the fragmented, often disorientating experience of modern life. Prufrock's identity is deeply tied to this movement. He embodies the modernist theme of alienation. He represents the quest for meaning in a rapidly changing world. Eliot's portrayal of Prufrock shows a man paralyzed by indecision. He is also riddled with self-doubt. This reflects the broader modernist concern with the fragmented self. This concern is echoed in the works of other modernist writers like Virginia Woolf. James Joyce's characters also grapple with the complexities of identity and the passage of time. The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock in the broader cultural landscape. In a broader cultural context, the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock can be seen as a response to the disillusionment. This followed the upheavals of the early 20th century, including World War I. The poem captures the existential crisis of a generation. This generation found itself questioning the values and beliefs that had once provided stability and meaning. Prufrock's introspection and his ultimate resignation shows the uncertainties of a world. This world had lost its sense of coherence and direction. The poem's imagery paints a picture of a world, from fog-covered streets to the suffocating social environments. Individuals struggle to find their place and voice. Concluding thoughts on Prufrock's journey. As we conclude our analysis of the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, it's clear that T.S. Eliot's work continues to resonate because it captures the universal human experience. Prufrock's journey through his thoughts is marked by doubt, fear, and a longing for connection. This journey speaks to the complexities of the human condition. The poem's enduring relevance lives in its ability to articulate the anxieties and uncertainties that many of us face. It is a timeless piece of literature. For those of you who are writers, Eliot's innovative use of language, form, and imagery provide valuable lessons. These lessons can show you how to convey deep emotional and psychological truths. Whether you're crafting poetry or prose, consider how you can use these elements. Create works that speak to the complexities of the human experience, much like the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. Thank you for joining me today on this in-depth journey through the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. Share it with others who love poetry. Also, check out my previous episodes. As always, I look forward to exploring more poetry with you in our next episode. Until then, keep reading, keep writing, and keep finding beauty in the words around you.